I haven't done this in a long time. I haven't. It's not since May 28th. So over a month. So we're back. Rhea, you're new. You're newest. So, and ladies first and all that. Do me a favor and introduce yourself for the listeners at home. Who you are, what you do, where you live, all that stuff.
So my name is Rhea Castrucci. I live in Wyoming, Ohio, here in Cincinnati, suburb of Cincinnati. I did not grow up here. I'm not like a lifelong Wyomingite by any means. I'm pretty much here for the schools.
Right.
And when my kids are out of the schools, I will probably move out to the country.
Isn't it super nice there, though?
It's nice. I can't complain. I love my house. And I really like my neighbors and where I'm at, but it doesn't have.
What street are you on?
I'm on North Avenue.
I don't. I thought I'd know, but I don't.
I'm like on the border of Wyoming and Woodlawn.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's just not, I mean, it's not diverse, let's be honest. Like, so there's that, you know.
Right.
I have a daughter who has difficulty in school. And so it seemed like a great place for us at the time. It was like, all right, they have a really good arts program. They have a good academic program. I won't have to pigeonhole my kids into one or the other, which is kind of how I felt like with Cincinnati Public, like either Walnut or SPA.
Right. Right.
You know,
just out of curiosity, is there a guy named Jack Walther still associated with the arts department at Wyoming schools?
He might be at the high school.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right.
That name doesn't sound super familiar.
I don't know if he retired or not. He would be super, super, super old. But hold that thought. Let me introduce Lavel. Lavel, introduce yourself for the listeners at home.
Hey, my name is Lavel Matthews. I live in the Mount Auburn area of Cincinnati, and I'm a tattoo artist.
Yes, you are. Sorry, that was weird.
That's awesome.
Really, you said the last name was Castrucci?
It is.
Oh, and is
Are
it
you related to like the Castruccis?
Yeah.
It's my ex-husband's family.
Oh, okay.
Which is funny. He's actually not even in the car business. My ex-husband owns a skateboard company. He owns Habitat Skateboards.
Okay. Oh, nice. Do they do custom decks and stuff, or is it just like putting parts together?
They do. Habitat has their own line. They're part of, I don't know the details now, but they used to be part of Alien Workshop.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And I think he's still kind of running that whole, he might be running all that now. I'm not really sure.
That's cool.
Because he's not around.
Yeah, no, it's funny. His warehouse is right behind my house. He got a warehouse space because he's like, needs to be near our children because he's very concerned about what they're girls. They're teenagers. My oldest is a little crazy. So he's like, I just need to be close to them. I'm like, okay, whatever. But yeah, he's right there behind me, which is cool. You know, it makes things easier, but yeah. Yeah.
Right on.
What tattoo shop do you work at?
I work at Handcraft. That's over on 4th Street. I actually just tattooed a Castrucci today, so I was curious.
Who was it?
His name's Tony.
Tony, I don't know.
Tony Castrucci. That sounds about right, though.
Yeah, there's a lot of them. There's probably we've been separated or divorced for like almost 10 years now. So there's a lot of people.
Right on.
Yeah, we're on good terms. I still get a car discount. What?
Right.
Cool.
Just kidding. I don't know.
What?
Yeah, we are on good terms though, I think.
That's too funny. Lavel, how's the reopening of the tattoo business been? Oh, Rhea, Lavel knows I did all this. I did all these shows about COVID-19, about the virus, and it's funny to think back on the last one being like May 29th, and things are so much really worse now than they were then.
Yeah, right.
As far as cases and shit, but life is proceeding apace. So, Lavel, you were telling me right before I started recording that you've been really, really busy. Tell me a little bit. I mean, are people scared, or are the people coming for tattoos just like, fuck it, I'm cool?
Yeah, pretty much fuck it, I'm cool. It's been the attitude. Everybody's been pretty laid back. I haven't really had any stress as far as like people coming in or anything. They've been pretty cooperative and just like kind of ready to get tattooed.
I don't know if I've ever seen you exhibit stress about anything, but that's just a personal observation.
That's funny. I got tattooed last week actually over at White Whale. And yeah, it was normal, just wearing masks, but I mean, didn't seem crazy.
That was the thing. The discussion ended up after a while. You could imagine it got pretty repetitive, but it always ended up being something along the lines of, yeah, let's be safe, but we got to learn how to do it. This is the new normal, and things like that. But what happened was I stopped doing it because of the death of George Floyd, which was like May 25th or 26th or whatever. And what's funny is I did like 3 or 4 shows that week, and it wasn't the subject. Every news we were talking about the virus still, and it wasn't as bad as it is now. And the reason I stopped doing the show, and the reason I was telling Rhea this before he came on, Lavel, the reason I stopped doing it is because when the whole protest thing, the Black Lives Matter thing, really manifested itself, I didn't have anything to say about that. I didn't want to have a bunch of it just was, there was no way it wasn't going to be the subject of every show every day. The protests were going on. And Mike suggested that we talk about Black Lives Matter specifically, and then he didn't show up, and neither did Rory, which is Ryan's friend from Atlanta, who apparently had some really strong opinions about the whole thing. Lavel, you and I haven't talked. What do you think of all that? I mean, I was, I don't mind telling you that I didn't go to any protests because I'm a sissy and I was afraid about the virus and stuff. But I was super excited. I really thought that a revolution was fucking coming down, like, now.
Yeah, I thought the whole Black Lives Matter movement was really cool to see and experience, especially the level it got to. I mean, as far as even it going worldwide was pretty cool. Even Germany had one of the biggest.
That was awesome.
Yeah, Black Lives Matter protests. I'm saying, outside of America, which was pretty cool. Japan was doing it, which was cool.
Oh, tons of countries doing it.
Yeah.
Huge protests. The UK, I mean, it was massive.
Everywhere.
Yeah, it really was. It was amazing. And I don't know if it's. What do you guys think? It seems. I'm sorry to say, it seems to have kind of fizzled out, or it seems like the media coverage has diminished enough that it doesn't seem like it's something anymore. And it kind of makes me sad that it didn't have a lot of legs. Maybe it does. I don't know. Am I out of touch?
I think the media is a huge issue. I mean, the mainstream media, they're definitely, in my opinion, already on to the next big thing.
Yeah.
Which is probably going to be this second wave of COVID.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know how it can't be, really. But
yeah, I think things need to change, and it's I'm hoping it's on the trajectory to change. If people can just keep it alive. I mean, I still a lot of people I'm following on social media are still posting about it every day.
Well, and that's good. I mean, it's good that there's sustainability about it, because it's imperative, or it will just drift by the wayside. But I think there's been a lot of progress made. I don't think in any small part, one of the biggest things is that I think that a lot of people in this country, I think a lot of fucking white people in this country were realizing that, about subconscious racism, ignored systemic racism. I mean, I really think that, even, people like myself, lazy, fat, white dudes drinking beer, doing nothing but feeling good about how cool things are going, learned a lot about where the fuck we were. And I think that's going to be a big factor moving forward with voting and with, policy changes, with things like that. But, I don't know. I really have no idea how it's going to shake out. Lavel,
it'll definitely be interesting. Like you said, I feel like it woke a lot of people up. You know what I'm saying? It woke a lot of white people up. You know what I'm saying?
Sadly, it needed to happen.
I know, it's kind of crazy for real, but it was at the same time, it was pretty cool just seeing that, because I feel like a lot of people just didn't know or realize what was really going on. You know what I'm saying? They were, you probably had a couple people that were like, oh, this was just an incident, or this was just an incident. But I feel like the George Floyd, as much as it sucked, that man died, the fact that we were able to get raw footage of what was going on and stuff, that the media couldn't really hide or shield. It was kind of crazy, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, during the protests themselves, especially, it was all of a sudden like law enforcement all over the country forgot that video phones existed. It was
Yeah.
that first week. I mean, I really thought it was so brazen and so obvious and so ridiculous. I really thought there was no way that it wasn't going to. I mean, I feel really good about the fact that a lot of police officers were charged, disciplined, chastised, desked, whatever it was it took. I mean, a lot of that happened, and hopefully that's a trend that can continue. The whole idea of, I don't know, it's just the perspective wise, it's just so. I went down a path I didn't know where I was headed. I just, shit. It's just, every once in a while I have a conversation with somebody and they'll do the bad cop thing. They'll say, this isn't the systemic problem we're talking about. It's you don't need to revolutionize or defund the police, do this and the other thing too. But it is a systemic thing. It's a
Do people even
deal.
know what systemic means? Because
sometimes,
I literally
sometimes not. Yeah, it's like the guy that says, it's like the guy that says, well, they kill a lot of white people too. And my first response is, yeah, that's a problem. Don't you? That's like,
right,
we're talking about the problem, right?
Why are we pissed about that too?
Right.
I mean, the problem, and Ryan and I talk about this a lot,
which is why he volunteered you to take his place. And while we're recording, I want to point out that Ryan Gagan didn't have the guts to come here and talk to us about this stuff. And he brought it. Well, what he did is he brought in a ringer, because you guys have been talking about this. He knew you'd have stuff to say.
Yeah.
Go for it. Go. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No. We talk a lot about how, in our opinion, it seems like there's all the people, especially on social media, love to take all these little tidbits in a linear way, but no one's looking at the big picture, which is definitely the vertical spectrum of power and what's going on there, and the militarization of the police and the politicians. I mean, it's just it's all just so deep. It's like, where do you even start?
Yeah, well, I mean that Ryan and I have had conversations like that too. It's the failure of abject capitalism as a system of existence for society. It's the whole big thing. But the thing that's great about this particular one, about the Black Lives Matter thing, is that it's an opportunity to have a minor revolution, to have it, to make a change within the system, and revolution, not reform, and all that. I understand that sometimes you have to destroy things to make them correct. But the whole truth of the matter is we're way, Ryan's gonna love the fact that I just said that too. We're way past the point of being able to change the planet's society, the planet's dependence on, financial gain. We're past that point, so we got to change what we can. And I'm still excited about the possibility that this circumstance, God help me, I don't want a lot more deaths, but I would kind of like the virus thing to get bad enough to absolutely assure that there's no way we don't have a complete sea change in our government this fall. That there's no way people don't finally stand up and go, wait a minute, this is bullshit. We're the greatest country in the world because we spread the virus faster and farther than anybody else. Just
that. Know what you mean, for sure.
Oh God. Ugh.
It's so incredibly frustrating. And it's interesting too. I mean, I learned more about Black history in the last 6 weeks or whatever since George Floyd's death, just from what my friends are posting and the information that's being put out there, than I honestly even remember learning throughout, my K through 12 years. So it's like, that's another thing. History books need to change. I mean,
need to reflect history, perhaps.
Yeah. It's frustrating as a parent, even to I mean, I'm trying to teach my kids now,
the homeschooling thing hasn't ever worked out very well for me.
Right? I'm like, the homeschooling thing sucks. And now here I am back to the homeschooling thing. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the answer is, but it's incredibly frustrating.
We're losing Lavel, but what we can do is we can let him borrow one of our children for a school day this year, so we can see what the fuck we're talking about. No, but you made an interesting point about, you know, learning so much over the last, you know, 6 weeks about Black history, and I bet it's true for a lot of Americans. And that's one of those root things that's possible to address without having to burn everything down. You know, is the idea that, you know, maybe Black History Month should be like just the history of the United States,
Just
instead of
incorporated into American history.
Maybe it should be, you know, history. You know, and you reminded me of something too. Shit, I'm having a seizure. This is what, Lavel, did you get another beer? I shouldn't have gotten the third beer because I can't remember stuff.
I have two on my desk right now.
But it's just, you know, it's I don't know if it's the obligation or the need of popular culture to support these things, but I can't count how many things I've learned from movies and television and stuff that I didn't even sniff the edge of in my education, you know, and that might be, you know, one of the fundamental causes of the kind of subconscious racism that people live with every day without even knowing it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just the things that don't know or don't understand.
Yeah, I definitely feel like it's a lot of people just like not knowing, and it's like just unconscious, like ignorance and like not purposeful. You know, it's like it's
right,
not
malicious. They're not trying to be evil.
It's like, you can't even like blame the individual for not knowing, because I feel like systemic racism goes on both sides. Like you guys both said, it's like you guys have learned more in the past 6 weeks, but it's like you guys were also never taught the right knowledge in the first place. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, I don't know. It's kind of a faulty thing on both sides, you know?
Yeah, it's totally faulty. I mean, yeah, it's like I just hope that this is such a motivation and an inspiration for change. You know, like I know for Wyoming, they've been talking, we've been getting emails from the school about you know, what they want to do in light of all this. And I work at UC, and obviously they're all about equity and inclusion, and so they've been talking a lot about how to move forward with that stuff too. And I'm really hoping that Wyoming will consider changing the curriculum some way to start reflecting these things, because there are a lot of people, even in this little affluent, slightly annoying suburb, that want their kids to be better, you know, and want them to grow up better. And so I'm hopefully, you know, if things start to change.
How is that? I mean, that's an interesting point too. How is that done? I have kind of a similar circumstance here. I'm in Hyde Park. I'm actually on the Evanston edge of Hyde Park. And same thing. My kids go to the public school here, but there's no doubt that it's a public school that's PTA generates a ton of fucking money, you know. But it's also no doubt that the kids that go there, their parents can afford the private school thing, but they do the public school thing. And I suspect it's for what you're saying, for the exposure, for the development, for the what's the word I'm looking for? I'm not going to find it. But you know, the idea is to make sure that they have an understanding of it's a public school. There's all walks of life, et cetera, et cetera.
It gives you more of like a real world experience.
Yeah. The well-rounded. They're looking for a well-rounded experience. I'm happy my kids go to. I was happy I went to public schools.
Yeah,
you
same
know?
here.
You know, and in some instances, I find that my education might have been better than some of the private school kids I know. But you know, it's just from experiences and stuff. But I mean, does that constitute? I mean, how do you instill that kind of thought process, no matter what the reasons might be? I mean, this might be conceit on the parents' parts to make sure they seem like, you know, well-rounded individuals themselves. But how do you spread something like that to make the experiences more uniform? I mean, that's one of the biggest issues with the country is everybody's experiences is so fucking different right out of the gate.
Yeah, I mean, even like you can take Ohio, for example. I can go.
You could take Ohio.
Well, yeah, for sure. But it's like, you know, I live in Cincinnati, but I could go an hour east or an hour north, completely different environment. You know what I'm saying? I go 2 hours north, completely different environment. You know what I'm saying? And it's completely different exposures. You know what I'm saying? you could look at all the big cities of Ohio. They all have completely different diversity pools, completely different economic pools, completely different, like, you know, experiences, and it's all even in the same state. And then you look at it from a whole country's perspective.
Yeah.
Each of the other 50 states have their own kind of way they go about things and just how things are, just predispositionally. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's just is the way it is, and it's not really much you can do about it. So it's like, I guess the real question is, how can we give everyone the same exposure without taking away, I guess, their sense of home
or individuality?
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I guess that's like the real question.
I you know, I don't know if it has to even be that complicated. I mean, the whole truth of the matter is that I keep saying it. That's the second time. Ryan's going to be thrilled. You know, I mean, this country, we're at a point now in human history, United States in particular, obviously it's all I know, you know, and so in the U.S. history, I mean, as far as exposure goes, you might have not an individual face-to-face, but it's not like most of the country isn't seeing the same television, the same news, the same movies, the same music. You know, there's at least some kind of, I don't think it's a, you know, I mean, obviously everybody's got to embrace their own individuality, but it's this weird, I don't know about, I mean, Lavel, how old are you, man? I forget.
I'm 24.
Okay. So, you know, in your lifetime, in my opinion, in your short lifetime, this George Floyd protest might have been the biggest and most impactful, but this isn't the first time you've seen an uprising over the death of a black man, is it? At the hands of police or something even more unjust.
No.
At 24, this isn't the first time. It just might have been the most impactful, right? You know,
Yeah.
and so I just, you know, somehow it just feels like this intolerance thing is one of these like festering wounds that has to get scraped open every now and then, but it never seems to ever get healed, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm all about individuality, but I'm also I'm not for intolerance at all. It's just there's somehow we got to find a way to accept each other and embrace our differences. And I don't know. I'm running down another path. I don't know where the end is.
Yeah. No, I know what you mean for sure. I don't know. I feel like it's hard.
Stop trying to one up each other all the time. Sorry, Lavel, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, you're good. Go ahead.
You just one-upped him.
I know, right? Like everybody's like trying to. What do they say? What's that expression about the Joneses? Like trying to be like your neighbor. You know, get the next best thing.
Right.
It's like people are just constantly like climbing, and so it's like they have to put themselves in this position to be better than someone else constantly, and it's insanity.
True.
That's capitalism.
Right. We're back to the whole world thing.
Yeah.
You know, even if it's your kids, like you get status by if your kids are playing on like a club team, you know, that's a way for you to be like, oh yeah, my kid doesn't play rec sports, they play club sports. It's like there's just this constant battle that when I was younger, like that wasn't even a thing. I don't know. I just feel like people priorities are just backwards.
Yeah, and that's probably symptomatic of the whole thing. I mean, it's not like the American people as a whole aren't kind of a self-involved, arrogant, and selfish fucking race of people just by and large. I mean, you know, the measure of success in the United States of America isn't, you know, supporting your family and paying your bills. It's 4 houses, 8 cars, an airplane, you know, shit like that. I mean, this goes back to the much broader picture kind of thing. So, you know, I don't know. And now we got this COVID-19 that has yet to bring us to our knees. Rhea, I'm sorry, you didn't tell me what you did, or you did, but I asked you to stop so you could expand on it a little bit. You work at UC?
Yeah, I work at UC. I work in the school planning, which I didn't know what planning was until I worked there, to be honest.
Tell me.
And so I've actually learned a lot of relevant information just from being exposed to the little bit of planning I've been exposed to. So I do like administrative stuff, like program coordinator stuff, but one of the things I was lucky to learn about was, have you guys heard of Kenyon Bar?
Kenyon Bar?
Yeah, Kenyon Bar, the neighborhood. It used to be the west side of downtown.
No.
So this is really interesting, and I feel like it's it's a great example of systemic racism, honestly. And it was a neighborhood in the west end of Cincinnati, and I forget the generation. It might have been like the 20s, but I'm not 100% sure on that.
When you say the west end of Cincinnati, are you saying like Lynn Street, where like the museum center
like,
is?
No, like a little bit further. So basically, what
That's
they
like
did,
Liberty and stuff.
like what?
By Liberty and like Central Parkway.
Sort of, yeah, like where you know where like all the train stations are now and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Over by
the
Union
train
Terminal,
yard. Yeah.
all the train yards. So that whole area used to be neighborhoods. And it was like 90%, it might have been 97% low income African American when it happened. And everyone was displaced so that they could
Put that rail yard in.
Put the rail yard in, put 75, bring 75 through and all that. And if you look at I was fortunate enough to meet Ann Steiner, who is a PhD candidate in history, I believe. She might have gotten her PhD by now, but she researched this. She's done curated exhibits on this. And so it was really interesting to hear about how none of these people got a say. I mean, these are people that owned homes, not just owned homes, but rented too. But this was an entire neighborhood of thousands of people, and they were just completely displaced.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it happening again with the FC Cincinnati Stadium being built?
I mean, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why people were so upset about that in a lot of ways. But most people don't even know about Kenyon Bar, so it's like they have no idea.
No frame of reference.
But I mean, I'm sorry, I can't give you more information on it because it's just not coming to me right now. But like, it's really interesting, and I would highly recommend reading about it and just how it happened. And it's just typical it's just typical displacement of people of low income, especially. And you just destroy neighborhoods. I mean, this was a thriving neighborhood, and it was just completely destroyed.
I mean, the history of this country is littered with destruction in the name of progress. It's just the way it is. I've seen so many similar circumstances just all over the city of Cincinnati. I mean, have you seen what's happened to the back end of Camp Washington where they're putting the new 74-75 exchange? There was houses down there too. There was various businesses and stuff on that Coleraine strip back where Shen's Theatrical was and stuff. And they just, it doesn't matter.
That's the next OTR or whatever, right? Is that what they're saying? Like,
I don't know. You can't stand in the way of progress, though, is what I'm telling you. They'll bulldoze it. They'll pour some cement and it'll be all over.
I mean, I think it just goes to illustrate the bigger picture of like housing discrimination and it just goes, to me, it's just an illustration of the problem, and it's been going on for so long. And so I think that's what's frustrating when I hear people that are like denying systemic racism. Like, what do you mean?
That goes back to what we were saying before, though. It's just, and there's so many instances where it's been going on for so long, and it's been such a pattern, and it's been so easily dismissed as just, like I said before, progress or whatever it is.
Right.
And it goes back to what we were saying before. Do you fault somebody for just being so jaded and worn down that they don't even phase? It doesn't phase them. They don't even think about it. The problem, the real, I mean, again, back to where we were talking about the nefarious capitalistic tendencies of the entire society of the world. I mean, the problem with the United States right now is that the dollar's been valued over life for too long. It's money first and it's people second, and it's the way it's been. And the virus is a great example of that. And whoever's might be watching this that knows me or whatever can go fuck off if they think the virus is something to ignore because they think it's more important to make money than to save lives. But it all feeds into it. It all feeds back into the same thing. The racism, it's about money. It's about power. It's about, keeping people at odds with each other. And it's fucking disgusting. Yeah, that was a good diatribe, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, that sums it up, and
Lavel, you did this last time too. Sorry, Rhea.
So from
I do last time?
Sorry, Rhea, I'm sorry. No, there was a time when you just kind of sat there and nodded every now and then.
I honestly didn't really have much to say. I feel like you guys have been saying everything. Just I
I
agree with you
appreciate that.
guys. There's not much for me to really say. I feel like as far as like the whole Black Lives Matter thing, I feel like it's something that like Black people have already been saying for like so long that like I don't know. I'm not trying to put it on anybody else's shoulders, but it's like I can only say it so many times before somebody else understands. I feel like these are like conversations that need to be happening between other individuals of other ethnicities, you know what I'm saying, of other neighborhoods and communities.
Well, let me ask you a question about that real quick. I mean, I mean, is it that important? The white voice is that important? Because I've been told before that, you know, I mean, obviously my silence is one of the worst things that can happen. You know, we all got to unite together, right? I mean, does it feel like we're finally that you're getting more, that more's being said, or does it? Because to me, I'm afraid it's just going to be kind of another one, you know, and then we have to wait till people wake up again, you know?
I don't know. I think this time is a little different, especially with like the fact that it got overseas.
Yeah, that's still,
like,
yeah, I agree with you. That's fucking amazing.
That was like pretty monumental. But like, I feel like if like I don't know, if a wolf cries in the forest, you know, and all it does is cry in the forest, and you know, you might check on it the first time, but after a while, you're just like, oh, it's just a wolf that cries, and it just becomes known as, you know, wolves just cry.
Right.
When, you know, a lion starts crying, it's like, oh, this is different. Why is this lion crying? You know what I'm saying? But the lion's crying the same reason the wolf is, so it's kind of like, oh, maybe this crying's happening for a reason, you know? So I don't know, I think white voices are important in this because, I don't know, I feel like Black voices have been kind of
there the whole time and ignored.
Well, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Kind of phased out a little bit. And it's just like, I don't know. It doesn't hold as much as a voice, I guess. And I feel like when, you know, white individuals are having conversations with other white individuals, it's kind of like, oh, damn, like, maybe I shouldn't say this, or maybe I should actually, like, listen to what they're saying, you know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I just think it hits a little bit different.
Oh, I kind of
it's like a valid second opinion, I guess, is the best way I can think of it.
Yeah, you know, I mean, I actually understand what you mean by that. It's just, you know, and I hope so. You know, I can think of times in my life when I've been called out for saying something that I thought was funny or comedic or otherwise, you know, and you know, in most instances, I appreciated it. It wasn't something that was like an issue for me. It was just like, oh, you know, because 99 times out of 100, it was because I didn't look at it the right way or I didn't see it the way someone else did. That's, you know, I tell my kids all the time, the biggest crime you can commit as a human being is assuming anybody else is thinking exactly like you are. It's because it's never true. You know, you have to be conscientious of the fact that people don't see it exactly like you do, and you have to be respectful of the fact that that's gonna, you know, that's gonna create conflicts. So it is what it is. Listen, I'm running out of time. I specifically do this on the free account, so I have the 40-minute time limit. Well, it makes it so that because I don't think anybody wants to hear anybody talk about shit for more than 40 minutes anyway. So you know, but I really, it was really nice to meet you. And
nice to meet you guys.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure I'm going to keep doing this, but I enjoyed it. It's been too long. Lavel, I love you, baby.
I love you too.
It's really nice to see you. You guys will both do this again sometime, though, right?
Of course.
Absolutely. Well, I really appreciate that. Thanks very much. And you know what? You know, fuck Ryan for, you know, not only, well, no, actually, I should thank him for having you be here, but to have him not be here and then to have Rory from Atlanta, who I shouldn't be calling out because I'm sure she's very nice, but to have him not show up kind of sucked. But Butler, he might bring me something back from California. It'll all be good. You guys have a great night.
Thanks, Scott. It was nice to meet you. Bye.
Thank you, Riz. Nice to meet you. Take care, guys.
Take it easy, guys.
Yep. See you, fam.
See you, fam.